Hello, everybody, and welcome to Unconventional GMs, the channel where we play ttrpg one-shots with pace, vim, and vigour. And today, we've got a really exciting game for you. We're playing The Between. Jason Cordova, the Gauntlets, Victorian monster hunters around London. This game will be, as this is released, fully on backer kit. But obviously, if you're watching this after that's happened, the game will be out and it'll be beautiful and there'll be like mastermind dice and stuff. You'll have missed the chance to get it on backer kit. You can probably go and like get it in shops and stuff. So if you like what you see, by all means back it. And if you're too late to do that, just buy it and play it. We're going to get to it in a minute. I'll give you a little bit of an introduction about what the game's about. Then we'll meet our cast of hunters. So in The Between, we're in Victorian era London, and there are monsters in London, ghosts, vampires, the remnants of dark magics haunting the streets, and behind them, there's a sinister mastermind threatening to topple Queen Victoria herself. Our players, though, are hunters. They've resolved to make London a safer place, although to do this, they're going to have to face their own literal and figurative demons. They operate out of Hargrave House, a great mansion on Belgrave Square in London, and sally forth to address these threats. The Between is built on a Powered by the Apocalypse chassis, but with lots of drift. Most notably, it's got a mystery system where the solution to the threat that our hunters are facing today isn't known in advance by them or me or anywhere in the game. They're going to assemble a list of clues. You can see our clue list on your right. That'll gradually get populated, and then they'll try and summarize and answer the question that's going on in there. You can check out our recording of Brindlewood Bay for another game that does the same thing with those mysteries. But along the way, we'll also find out a bit about our hunters and their past lives and what they're doing. We tend to introduce that in flashback rather than in play, a bit like when you're watching a TV series and you see flashbacks of people's prior lives rather than it being just delivered to you by backstory. Before we start, I'll just say that we do have safety tools in play. We had a discussion about lines and veils. We've also got an X card in play. So if somebody does hit it, we'll probably, well, realistically, we'll stop the game. You won't get to watch us have a quick debrief about it, and then we'll come back and just keep everyone safe. It is a horror game. It is really important that you use these kind of safety tools when you're playing things like this. Everybody has some narrative sort of stuff to do in this game, so it's no shade on anyone if the X card gets played. Sometimes you don't know what's happening until it comes out from there. So with that further ado, let's meet our hunters. I'm going to start with Gaz. Can you tell us about Mr. Flintwhistle, the vessel?
I can indeed. Yeah. Hi, I'm Gaz. You'll probably know me as one half of Unconventional GMs, or indeed one half of What Would the Smart Party Do, the UK's premier RPG podcast. Today, I'm playing Algernon Flintwhistle, who some consider a stage magician, maybe a fakery or something like that, but others who know him more closely know that he is, in fact, indeed a summoner of the dark arts. He conflabs with demons and spirits, those that have passed. If there's a murder, he may well speak to the murdered to find out what's happened. He's always dressed in a baroque fashion with a beautifully coiffed head that kind of hair that curls round like the top of a Corinthian column. And he has a variety of outrageous outfits which he wears. And always with him is his small cat Puma, who he insists is from the jungles of South America and is just reduced in size temporarily until he finds the right conjuration to bring the animal back to its full stature.
Amazing.
Let's see if we find that during today's episode. Fantastic. Excellent. And secondly, let's meet Shane and Mrs. Williams, the factotum.
Hello, everybody. So, my name's Shane. Happy to be here and play this. So I'm the factotum, Mrs. Mabel Williams. Mrs. Williams to most people, Auntie Mabel to her contacts all across London. She's a lower class woman who dresses higher than perhaps she should, spending as much as she can on fine floral high neck dress coats and dresses to go with her grey hair and bulging handbag. She'll tell you that she's been serving the Flintwhistle family since before young Mr. Flintwhistle here was born. From her small room in the bottom of the manor, but seemingly everywhere needed whenever she is. When nobody's looking, she's always fiddling with a cameo necklace, but as far as you're aware, she's never opened it.
Fantastic. Can't wait to meet with Mrs. Williams in play. And finally, Craig, I do feel a bit bad that we might have typecast you here by asking you to play the American, but go ahead, introduce yourself and who you're playing.
I've got the accent down, so I've got that going for me, right?
It's very compelling, actually. You've really got that.
Yeah, I am playing the American playbook, and I am known as Wild Hank Larrabee. I am from Georgia. I am very tall, a bit lanky, a full bushy handlebar mustache with a sharp goatee. I've got a bolo tie with worn leather straps that fall from it, and a fringed jacket, fringes off the lapels as well as off of the arms. And I look like I just got out of bed. My clothes never creased, always wrinkled. And though I will talk about my great adventures out west in the Americas, really more than anything, I'm more of a Mark Twain storyteller. So the deadliest thing that could happen is that you get trapped and have to listen to one of my tales.
Lovely to meet the American. Maybe we'll find out in the course of this session as to why he finds himself in London. Who knows? You can tell. Excellent. So the Between has a really tight phase structure. So we go through the dawn, day, dusk, and night phases. And in the full game, where you play a campaign of it, threats appear every dawn phase, so they can stack up, and the hunters can easily have 2 or 3 things to deal with at once. And because we're playing a one-shot, we're just going to have one threat, and it's going to be introduced now as we join our hunters as they sit around and breakfast in Hargrave House, and then we'll go straight into the day phase. They'll do a bit of investigation to see what's happening, and then dusk will happen. They'll assemble, and we'll hit in the night phase. The day phase is sort of a bit more like a traditional game. They'll decide what to do. We'll resolve it using dice, and all of that will happen as normal. The night phase gets a little bit weirder and more terrifying. So we'll see where we are from that. So as you are sat around in Hargrave House, just waiting, like maybe doing your research, having your repast in the morning that I imagine Mrs. Williams has been involved in serving up and making for everyone, a threat has arrived. Let me just read you the information about the Whateley camera. So Hargrave House's library contains research on the so-called Whateley camera, one of the first wet plate cameras ever produced. People who are photographed by the camera have been known to disappear without a trace. An American scientist, Atticus Whateley, studied the camera for a number of years and proposed it was some sort of entity, a demon or even a god, and that the people who went missing had been transported to another dimension. Whateley advanced an idea called the fragrant void, a sort of proto-Earth that existed in near total darkness and was home to powerful entities. He believed some of these entities could still operate in our world, hidden from view, perhaps from common objects like the camera. While his research couldn't prove the existence of the fragrant void, he did manage to show how the camera caused people to be whisked away to another dimension. Unfortunately, before he could present his work for peer review, he was killed in mysterious circumstances. His notes were destroyed and the camera went missing. 1 week ago, a beautiful actress, Penelope Levy, disappeared. She was last seen at the Society Obscura, an exclusive and secretive club for wealthy photography enthusiasts, located in a converted townhouse in Kensington. A missing actress wouldn't normally be the kind of thing that would get the attention of Hargrave House, except that her lover, Bert Broadswell, has written to you and sent you one of the pictures that were taken of Penelope by the Society Obscura. I'm going to ask a paint the scene question now. And I think I'm going to go to Gaz, but any of you can chip in if you've got a better idea. So something unusual about this photo unmistakably confirms it was taken with the Whateley camera. What is it?
Within the picture, there's a variety of mirrors and such, and accoutrement which you would have around an actress. And in one of the reflections in the mirror, there's a face looking back, but it's not hers. It's of somebody else's profile.
Lovely, lovely. So with that in hand, you know that this missing persons case is in fact due to the Whateley camera, and you, as hunters, resolve to investigate it. When you have a threat like as we have now, you have questions and opportunities. And this one's quite a simple threat. There's just one question, which is, you can see it on the threat list here. What circumstances will cause someone photographed by the camera to disappear? That's a complexity 6 question. So when you try and answer it with your assembled group of clues, you're going to roll 2 6-sided dice, subtract 6, so subtract that complexity, and add a number equal to the number of clues that you can bring into play with it. Okay, so if you want to be successful, you want to be getting, well, as many as you can, really. When you've answered that question and you know the answer to that question, you then get an opportunity to reverse the threat, which you can do either by reversing the process and bringing Penelope back, or use the camera to transport yourself to the fragrant void and make contact with the entity there. Threats can only be resolved in the night phase, so you can't do them in day. They can only be resolved when it's scary and doing that, and it's the day phase now, so time to investigate. So as this sort of news lands and you look around, I'm just going to go to each of you and say, where are you planning to begin your investigations, guys?
I plan on going to the townhouse. So I'm going to go to Obscura, find out what they know, what's going on there.
Excellent. So you're going to go visit the Society Obscura. Fantastic.
I intend.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Gaz, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the same place, but while our colonial friend is going to look at the mundane, I'll be examining the aura and the astral plane within the house, not the physical world.
Excellent. Can't wait.
And with Mr. Flintwhistle's permission, of course, I intend to visit a number of the local photographers to find out who may be in possession of this camera.
Excellent. Excellent. So, Mr. Larrabee and Mr. Flintwhistle are going to visit the Society Obscura in Kensington. Mrs. Williams, you're going to go around and find some other photographers, presumably, around. Are you, just to pitch it right, are you going for sort of high-end photographers or people more... I mean, it will be fairly high-end at this time anyway, but are you going for the top end, or what kind of contacts do you think you have?
So a lot of my friends are lower class seeking social mobility in a time when they cannot. So I'll be looking for one of those who is getting into the photography business with a second-hand battered old camera, but is ambitious and chasing work and the photography community all the time, as they're more likely to have heard something. I don't need them for their photography skill. I need them for their loose tongue and their ears.
Excellent. So maybe someone who's looking for jobs for newspapers and so on, and be photographing that. Okay. Maybe we'll start with the Society Obscura then. So, Mr. Larrabee, Mr. Flintwhistle, are you travelling together to Kensington? Are you going to arrive as a pair, do you think?
Sure. Yeah. I'm going to go with that.
So, yeah.
Okay.
You can sit up front with the driver. It's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kensington Townhouse. This is clearly a sort of vast building with a number of rooms, and you can sort of see that even now it's sort of you've breakfasted and stuff. This is late morning. The curtains here in this townhouse all seem to still be drawn on all the floors of it here. Walking right up and knocking on the door.
That is exactly what I'm going to be doing.
That's of course why I bring him, because I don't want to knock myself.
Excellent. So after you've knocked, after a somewhat longer period of time than you might have expected, the door swings open, and you see a young boy, maybe 16, 17, dressed in a sort of houseboy, sort of what you might wear if you were training to be a butler, if you see what I mean. Sort of quite shiny jacket and an attempt to look respectable and posh and move in those circles, while still to be able to carry about plates of food and serve tea and stuff. He goes, "Oh, hello. Can I help you, gentlemen? The society isn't open today. If you're isn't open till later. If that's what you're interested in."
Not really, little one. Actually, I'm here because I'm kin friend to Miss Penelope, who's about gone missing, and well, the family has asked me to come here and kind of pick up her stuff. I think that they want to get possession of her accoutrements, things that she stored here in your little house. So if it's all right with you, I'm just going to come in, not bother nobody, and just kind of collect her things.
So I don't know if things are still here. I didn't realise that the family knew. I'd forgotten. Oh, yes, you have.
I'm terribly sorry, young man. Did you think that everybody finds you the most important person? Do you think the first thing the family would do would contact a snivelling little toe rag from down below and inform him of their procedures and therefore from their disposition of their possessions? What makes you think that you would know about these things? Are you getting in the way of my man? He's got business to do. I have other things for him to do besides this, you know. He's got a very busy day.
You see his face sort of goes through a few emotions as he does this and says, I think, you can see him think that maybe you'd better come back when the society's open and speak to one of the adults, and maybe your snivelling plaything comment makes him realise, actually, maybe I should just leave this to the grown-ups. I think this might be our first move, actually, because you're trying to get access, aren't you? You're trying to get in and be able to pick up whatever stuff she has, and presumably have a bit of a run of the place because it's clear there's not many people in here.
While that conversation's happening, Guy, I am, listen, you got a lot stored out, so I'm just going to get getting, and I'm just going to walk past him.
Okay, so let's have this as a day move with Gaz as the acting player, because I think this is, what's going to happen is going to depend on how this thing is. It's probably, I think, presence that you're using here.
Yeah, sure.
So what are you afraid, Gaz, will happen if you fail or lose your nerve?
What I'm terrified of is him going away and getting someone who's actually useful. So we're doing well it's him. But if he goes and gets someone who knows what he's talking about, then we might be in trouble. Yes,
I like that. Yeah. So what's at stake is that he will actually go and get some of the people in the society who, I don't know, you will be aware may well not be completely without their own knowledge of the dark arts themselves. Okay. Or is this chat? Okay, so do you want to make a roll? So it's 2 6-sided dice, add your presence, and let's see.
Yeah, so I rolled a 6, but I've got 1 presence, so I'll get a 7.
Excellent. So I need to tell you how your action would leave you vulnerable, and then you can choose to back down or go through with it. I think how this is going to go is, I think he's going to let you in to collect her stuff, but he is going to contact somebody else. They're not going to be here immediately, but he's going to attempt to get actual people to sort of help and get them. He says, go on.
I was just going to say, Alden's perfectly arrogant enough to think that he succeeded in cowing this boy and will take his backing off as just a further sign of his own great charisma. So yeah, he'll ignore the obvious signs that someone will be coming later.
Okay, yeah. He says, I suppose you better get started. I could get Mr. Abernathy later. Certainly do come in. Can I get you a tea or a cigar, brandy, perhaps?
You know what, Mr. Flint Whistle, I think he can head right there, and son, there is no reason for you to be serving us. In fact, why don't we both go to the kitchen? I'll help you put together some of that tea, figure out if you got any of that good black coffee, and we'll sort this out, and we'll let Mr. Flint Whistle here kind of collect his things. Does that sound good?
Oh yeah, certainly. And I think we see you follow him into the kitchen. I think the camera sees him. Just there's a little pulley system. It's one of those old houses. We just see him like slightly worriedly, agitatedly pulling on it, and distantly up in the house, a bell rings, and we hear somebody like roll over in bed as if they're awakening. At that point, maybe we'll cut back to Mrs. Williams. So, I think you found a little photographer's office.
Yep, just off of Fleet Street in a small side street.
Yes, I think just look, and it's. I'm imagining this is just barely could be called an office it's a desk and a chair and a camera and a person in it, and that's the entirety of it. That's all they've been able to get for rent here. And there are, as you walk in, they have to move some plates that are drying from there and do it. And your contact in here, let's call him Peter Finch. He says, Mrs. Williams. He sort of shuffles around and initially offers you to sit, then realizes there isn't another chair, so awkwardly wheels it round to the other side of the desk and sort of lounges. How can I help you? A portrait of one of your relatives, or are you one of the Flint whistles, maybe?
Oh, not today, Mr. Finch. Thank you. You know me, I don't like those things, that newfangled modern technology.
Oh.
I hear tell that people believe they steal your soul. Actually, I came knowing, Mr. Finch, that you are a cameraman of great knowledge and ambition, to ask you questions about a strange camera. Have you heard of the Whateley camera? It's an odd story. I don't really truck with such things myself, but I've been asked about it.
Okay, what you see, I think, is at the mention of the Whateley camera, his eyes go wide. He says, "No, I don't. The Whateley camera? Did you say? I've never heard of such a thing. Is it a new model?"
Come now, Peter, and I'll lean slightly forward over him, and tap his desk with my black umbrella. Don't leave Auntie Mabel waiting. Who has it? And I'll stare into his eyes with an intensity that everybody who's ever annoyed their grandmother is familiar with.
His eyes go even wider. I think this is the information booth here, because you may not find where it is, but you'll find a clue with it. So you just have to describe how you're doing so, which is doing the grandma stare. I like it.
Yep.
And roll with an appropriate ability. Again, I think this is probably presence.
Yep, absolutely.
So,
it's not Auntie Mabel's strong point, but she thinks it is. She is afraid that he will effectively just disregard her as old and unimportant and not worth helping.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, for the information move, you don't have to give a. I mean, you can. It's helpful, but you don't have to give a consequence, because it might just be that.
Sure.
It escalates that. But yeah, give us a roll and see what you get from it.
All right. That is a 7.
Okay. So again, there's a complication with the clue itself, or a complication you encounter while searching. He says, the Whateley camera, yes, I have heard of it. People talk about it among the clubs, people using it. I would stay well away of that, Mrs. Williams. It's bad news. The things about things stealing people's souls. Rumors are it can actually do such a thing. I don't believe any of that, of course. I did hear where it might be, though. An organization. They call the Society Obscura. They have a townhouse in Kensington. And he leans closer. He says, I went there once. And I would never return again. And as he does this, something like triggers, and there's a flash, and suddenly one of his flashes go off, and then you just get in that sort of shocked moment, you get a brief sensation as if you're floating. And then it's back in it. He says, I don't know. Sorry, there must be a bit of a malfunction there from that. I'm going to give you a condition. I'm going to give you a clue as well, which is, as he continues, I'm going to give you a condition, which I think is going to be, I'm trying to think of a way to put this, but I might put it as touched by the fragrant void, because that is what you had a brief sensation of when you floated. What will happen with that condition is when it comes into play, and you can decide this as well as me, when you make a roll, it'll give you disadvantage So you'll roll 3 6-sided dice, take the 2 lowest.
Yeah. So I sort of all the sort of confidence has gone out of Mrs. Williams' face, and she just sort of nods and clutches her umbrella with both hands and edges out of the shop with her eyes fixated on the flash until it.
Says when I went there was if you're going to go there, I don't know why I picked this up here. You should drop it back. I don't want any trouble with them. Just be careful. And he sort of it secretes a small book into your palm as you're leaving.
Yeah.
And as you look at it, this is our first clue.
Yeah, sure.
This is a centuries-old almanac describing phases of the moon. So I'm just going to phases of the moon. So until you don't have to worry about fitting that into anything yet, because there's nothing to fit it in until we get some more clues. But that is
Sure.
a capital C clue as he like retreats and starts playing with his camera.
Yeah.
Goodies and stuff.
Yeah, and I'm filtering out, really uncertain, not even looking at the almanac, just tucking it away, not taking my eyes off that flash until it's out of sight.
Lovely, look, and you've got the sort of the black spot in your eyes seems to follow you much longer than you would expect from there. Okay, let's go back to the kitchen, maybe. So, Mr. Larrabee, you were assisting the houseboy, Periwinkle. Periwinkle.
And to clarify, I said I was going to assist him.
Okay.
I just go into the kitchen and just sit down in a chair and watch him. There's no reason for me to do anything when we have a houseboy. But I am now, son. I tell you, my friend there, he likes a real sweet tea. So if you got some honey, let's make sure we piece that together for him. And what is it with you English and not having some coffee? I don't see any coffee around here. And now come on now. I mean, you got to have some Americans that come visiting.
Says, oh yes, I think we do sometimes. Your master, is he always like that?
Son, he ain't my master now. If anything, he's more of a co-worker, right? So we work together. He talks a good bit, but he as we used to say, his bark is worse than his bite, right? He'll come at you now with words, but that's about the extent of it. Listen, the family's real curious about Penelope. Can you give me some information about Miss Penelope? Like, what was she all involved in? What was she doing here?
Oh, she just visited and modelled occasionally. They said she had good cheekbones, the people there. I don't know what's wrong. I think mine are perfectly fine. And he sort of holds them up to the light to show them.
Yeah, you're a shiny boy. There's no question about that. You look fine, son. You look fine. But now, who's she interacting with? Is anybody who's paying like particular attention to her, and like who's taking them pictures, bringing her back?
And that's the information move, I think. So you're trying to get some information from Periwinkle about Penelope and what she was involved in. Again, I think it's presence. I think we're mainlining presence at the moment for it. Yeah, you've described how you're doing it. You're trying to get him at ease and stuff. Do you want to make your roll with presence then?
Yeah, I've got a +2 to presence.
Wow.
Which is good because I rolled a 6. So that puts me at an 8.
Okay, so again, there's a complication. Either clicks off. Okay. So, he says, oh, she came. I think she had. I'm not the first to ask about her. Another man came asking around after her. Some actor left his card, said we should hear about him. Bert Bigswell or something. And that is the Bert Broadswell who has written to you from that. He seemed very, very disturbed. She was odd, you see. And he sort of comes in closer. So she was odd. They take photographs of her. They do things. And afterwards, I'd hear them speaking in a strange language, like nothing you've ever heard. I know a little French. I can converse with Americans. I'm even familiar with the languages they speak in the north of England. But this was like nothing I'd ever heard. It really scared me. It really freaked me out. I'll be honest, I'm glad to see the back of it, although obviously I hope she's okay. So you have a clue, which is a character speaking in a dead language. And at that, as he's sort of in you, we have the door flies open, and we hear we don't see the person that's there. Where's Periwinkle? For what reason have you awoken me at this ungodly hour? And at that point, we'll cut to Gaz. What are you doing in the house? You've sort of just gone in to look around, yeah?
Yeah, I've gone rooting through all the rooms, so stalking through them perhaps is a better word. Until I found one that looks like the one where the photograph was taken of the actress. And as I look around, some of it's probably covered in dust sheets now and things like that, and things are slightly out of place. But I nod, and this little black furry face appears out of one of my deep pockets as I pull my cat Puma out with his emerald eyes, hissing and scratching at me, and saying, "That's right, Puma. We must speak to the spirits and find out what occurred here. The foolish will just look around for physical clues, but I shall see what is beyond." Speaking as if I've got an audience before me. So I shall head over to the largest mirror and pull off the dust sheet in dramatic fashion. So motes of dust fill the room with the sun that's coming through the Venetian blinds and such. So we must see with greater vision, shan't we? And I shake the cat a little bit, which starts clawing out at me. And I use that to draw blood from my arm as the cat scratches my arm, and then smear that across the mirror, which will then give me a view of the other side. So I'm going to quest for, preternatural clues.
Okay, so just to be clear, you can choose what you're engaging. Is this an information move, or is this a rite of salt and smoke? It sounds like it's an information move to me. But
it's information, yes. I'm trying to draw from the...
With a lot of colour added.
The auguries as well, yeah.
Yeah, so just to, I mean, you've set the scene brilliantly. I'll just say, as you pad through the rooms on the ground floor are fairly nondescript. A lot of them are under dust sheets and so on. You can tell that there's not that much photography equipment around. There's not much happens on this floor. It's sort of upstairs where they do that. But I think you do find a strange room like painted in greys and silvers where everything is on dust sheets. And yeah, there's mirrors. There's mirrors everywhere that have all been covered up by dust sheets for some reason, until you obviously rip one off and smear blood on it. So information move, you don't need to tell me what you're afraid will happen. I've already got loads. I mean,
it's a bit of opportunity.
Yeah. This is a target-rich environment you've created. I think you're rolling with sensitivity here.
I agree, and I'm also going to get a bonus die from using my kitten as a
crewmate. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
As an extra asset. So I get a total of 12.
Okay. So you find a clue. I will tell you what it is. Fantastic. So as you smear the blood upon it and gaze into it, monologuing the whole time, all of a sudden, a face appears in the mirror of Penelope Levy, screaming briefly, silently, and then gets pulled back into the rest of the time. And then as that sort of then the mirror then darkens and clears. And I think I'm going to have the blood that you smeared on it is also gone. It's perfectly polished now, just where she touched it. And you're left as it happens. There's an overwhelming smell of warm spices in this room, which is, believe it or not, your clue. Smell of warm spices. Usual. Nice. Apologies to listeners for my noisy keyboard while I do. Okay, but then I think you hear the tramping from behind you, and the door open, and the shouting of Periwinkle. What's all this about? Let's go back to Mrs. Williams. So you found out some things from your photographer friend. Is there anywhere else you want to investigate while this is happening?
Okay, so what I would like to do is I would like to reach to the Hargrave House Informals, one of my moves.
Yeah.
The small network of spies and enforcers throughout London that I siphon funds off to maintain.
Yeah.
And I would like to talk to young Kip Longfellow. He's a street urchin, quite short, always smells of hay, which is weird because he doesn't live in the country. He's weirdly red, as in without an A, so the colour.
Yeah.
And I'd like to reach out to young Kip, who I will find smoking roll-up cigarettes on a street corner, even though he's far too young for that. That said,
Victorian London, like
he'll tell you he's been working since he was 7. An honest day's work.
He'd be down the mines if he was in the north. It's like,
yeah,
smoking cigarettes is the least of his problems. Young Kip, isn't it?
Young Master Longfellow.
He says he quickly puts it out, pretends he hasn't. He says, "Oh, Auntie, so good to see you." And maybe I don't know what your setup is with these. Maybe he gives you a hug. Maybe it's a
he absolutely
It's
a bit of a ritual. He gives me a hug, and he clumsily pickpockets the sweets that I have in my pocket, as he always does. That I leave there for him.
Yeah.
Young Mr. Longfellow, my how you've grown. You'll be as tall as me soon. He already is.
Towers over you.
Yeah, Mrs. Williams is very short. I wonder if you'd like to earn a couple of farthings, young man.
Oh, I wouldn't mind. Times is hard. But he turns his pockets inside out, almost revealing the sweets that he's just lifted from you.
I would like you to go to Kensington and to watch a place for me.
Kensington?
Can you do that? I know.
Poor blimey.
That's why it's a couple of farthings and not one. Expensive place.
Yeah. Watch a place. What am I watching for?
I want you to see who comes and goes to. I'll give him the address to this house. It's a society of strange people that like photographs and things. But I want to know who comes and goes from there.
He says, "Oh, very, very well, very well. Or anything for you, Auntie. Anything for you. I'd do anything for you, and the 2 farthings, of course." He holds his hand out.
and I'll place 1 farthing in his palm. The other I'll give you tomorrow after you've watched it. Auntie Mabel was not born yesterday, young man.
Very well, miss. And I think we see him scamper off. And I think we'll roll for the move now.
Yes.
See how successful this is. So I think it's with presence, isn't it, when you use your hard
It is. Yep, one of my worst stats, but hey, it's good. Right. Oh, that's another 7.
That's good. Well, that means he survives.
Good. We like him.
He survives.
It's very explicit. On a miss, word gets back to you. They are dead. Like, okay. Very clear consequences.
Thought you ever got shots to develop lung cancer or anything.
You can see why they're smoking those roll-ups, can't you? Life is cheap. So he scampers off, and I think we see sort of the bushes the other side of the house. We see a little cutscene of him going up and then sparking up a cigarette in there. I know what the complication's going to be. It's fine. So we'll leave it there for now.
Grand.
Excellent. Back in the kitchen then. Our camera pans up to reveal the person that has walked in. This is a man, middle-aged, in a sort of form-fitting white bodysuit, tight in all the right places, with silver cords wrapped around his arms, legs, and neck. It says, "What's all this, Periwinkle? Entertaining guests? Why have you woken me up at this ungodly hour? Oh, do excuse me. Periwinkle, why didn't you tell us we had guests? You should have woken me earlier. What can I help you with?"
So what I'm imagining, Guy, is I move with an unnatural speed. So I come from sitting in the chair. I've got my feet up on the table, and I'm chatting it up with the boy. And as soon as this person makes their grand entrance, I'm there. And I'm imagining about a half head taller than him.
Yeah.
And immediately looking down, and in a very, very uncomfortable way, I've shoved my hand into his. I've put my other hand on his shoulder, and I'm right here looking down upon him, going, "Pleasure to meet you. Name's Hank, and we're real fine place you got here. And I got to tell you, your little boy here, he makes a mean kettle of tea. But I've been brought here by the family, and we're looking into Miss Penelope's disappearance, and I didn't catch your name.
My name, I didn't give it. It's Cyrus Abernathy. Are you? He seems completely unfazed by you being right in his face, as you can sort of smell the cigarettes off it. He says, "Are you an enthusiast as well?" He shakes your hand and keeps hold of it.
Mm-hmm. And like my move was going to hold on to his hand longer, and I realized that he's holding on to mine longer, and now I'm like, so it's not going the way I want.
I tell you, let's go to a move for this, because it sounds like this is a bit of a attempt to establish dominance of some sort.
Very much so.
You're trying to do. It's still a day move. You are doing something risky because we don't actually really know what he's capable of from here. I guess, what are you afraid will happen if you fail or lose your nerve?
That my facade will be broken. So the sense of oblivious confidence that I seem to float around with will be a little shattered. And so my desire to influence and exercise by influence will go away. So I'm afraid I'm going to lose my confidence.
And I've got in the back of my mind how that's going to manifest myself as well, because it's a really nice one. I think this is composure.
Okay.
You're right.
I'm trying to remember my composure. Let's take a look here.
Let's see.
Composure, I'm at a 0. So it'll be a straight roll. And that's a big fat 4.
Lovely. Let's cut back to you in a minute as we're left with you holding hands face to face and this fail. Gaz, you've done your ritual in this room. Overwhelming smell of spices and cinnamon and so on. You've heard the footsteps behind you padding down. What are you doing now?
Padding behind me, I'm going to whirl around dramatically.
No, sorry, you just heard them go down the stairs. It was Cyrus going to the kitchen.
And then realised that they'd gone past me down the stairs. And I look somewhat aggrieved, and I'm stood there by the mantelpiece with one arm up, ready for the dramatic entrance when he comes in, and I'll confront them. And they carry on walking, and I'll sag somewhat. And you can't quite tell if a kitten's laughing or not, but it seems to. The stuff coming back in my deep pocket. And I'm going to rush downstairs with a clattering of Cuban heels and my cape billowing behind me to see what's occurred. Because obviously I don't want to leave an American alone in an establishment like this.
Okay. Well, what has occurred is, I think we can cut back there. I think you do lose your nerve slightly. And he sort of steps forward. There's something slightly magnetic, odd about his eyes and the way he's looking at you as he sits you down in the chair and says, "My dear, even if you aren't, you have such chiseled features. I must," and he turns around, you see him open a cupboard and assemble a camera. "I simply must capture your likeness. Yes, in the kitchen here. Have you ever modeled before? So, of course you have. I can see it working just as you are." And just as he turns the lens towards you, you see a little sort of flash reflection of your own face in it. And it's your face, but in the lens of this camera, you're like screaming up against the glass momentarily.
I would like to put on a mask of the past if I could.
Go for it. Yeah. I could carry on, but yeah, go on. Okay, so rewind to that. Which mask are you putting on?
Mask of the past. So narrate a flashback to your childhood that shows the high level of privilege you were born into.
Excellent. Do you want to do that now, or do you want to save it up till later?
Oh, let's save it.
Okay, so Hans, I think there's I think it always like to do this with a bit of a twist. So he says, but even if you aren't, you have such, and he takes this, such tight cheekbones. We must have you ever been photographed, Mr. Hank?
Larrabee. You know what? I have been photographed.
And he sort of stands back and he goes, "You would be, I could frame you in there." Oh.
And Cyrus, you ain't gonna believe this. So back home, I was the first person in Georgia that had ever been photographed. They built the camera just for me. They had me come in because you noticed it. I'm a pretty handsome fella. So they built the camera
unconventionally attractive, yes.
Yeah,
but quite striking.
It sometimes is unnerving, is what I've been told. So they built
people can be very cruel.
They took my picture, Cyrus, and I got to tell you, you ain't gonna believe this, but if you go back to the States right now and you try to mail yourself a letter, guess whose picture is drawn right on top of that stamp? They're gonna right there. You're gonna see me on that half-cent stamp.
Just like Queen Victoria, and incredible. Well, I'm pleased to meet you with Kate. He does a very fulsome handshake and says, Periwinkle, why didn't you say? This gentleman is it's clearly been admitted. You should come to our meeting tonight.
So I'm trying to do my tall tales move.
Go ahead. So just explain
when
how
you
that
tell
works.
a story,
like a tall tale.
Yeah, when you tell a story from back home that is wildly unbelievable in order to charm someone, roll with presence.
Yeah.
So presence is my skill. So I'm at a +2. There we go. That's a 9 + 2. That's an 11. So on a hit, they fall for your charm and do as you wish, or reveal a clue, your choice. On a 10+, they won't ask for anything in return, and I didn't get the 12+.
Okay, so I'm gonna shift it a little bit because I think he's very keen for you to come back to their meeting tonight. But he is going to give you a clue. So he's not quite doing what you want, but he's giving you an invitation. That's what he sort of thinks you want. He says, oh, so much. Yes, so much. We must get you to pose with some props and look through this. It would be, and you see him move around some of the stuff. And behind where he moves the camera, you just see there's a sequence of numbers sort of carved into the wall of the kitchen. So your clue is of numbers in an unusual place. But he says you must come tonight. We have some special enthusiasts coming and to take some special photographs. I'm sure you'd be excited to do. A celebrity. We could serve coffee. Periwinkle.
I think that's a wonderful idea. I love meeting new people. So yeah, you just tell me when, and I'll bring my carriage around, and I'll be happy to meet your folks.
Excellent. Now, I think probably that's the point where Gaz, where you arrive in here.
God, do I have to make my own tea? I'm spitting feathers. Positively parched.
Periwinkle says, "Oh, sorry, sir. It's just here. We got talking, and your friend is quite a good raconteur." And he passes you a thing. And Cyrus says, "Pleasure to make your acquaintance. Are you a friend of this famous gentleman?"
I wish I could say the same. A friend, more of a work acquaintance, a colleague, you might say.
Oh, and what brings you to Hargrave House? You have
I did hear from my friends.
As well.
Yeah, well, thank you for noticing. Yes, and I shall sit daintily in a chair. So, well, a good friend of mine who has peculiar interests was suggested there might be an event this evening, and it seems a terrible oversight, but my invitation must have got lost in the post. So I've come, as I happen to be in the area shopping for a chemise, that you might have a written invitation for myself, of course, and my staff, and perhaps my colleague might like to come as well. Have you seen his cheekbones?
I have indeed. Unconventionally attractive, but quite striking. I says, "Oh, yeah, certainly you should both come. Both come tonight." And you see him awkwardly move the camera back over the numbers that he's revealed.
Cameras, lovely. I do like new technology. I'm going to leap over like a cat and start examining the what's this thing do, and almost dropping a lens and stuff.
Okay, yeah, he's trying to sort of. I think this might be your move as he tries to bundle it away from you. What are you afraid will happen if you fail or lose your nerve?
That it will accidentally take a photograph of me.
Lovely. Yeah. As we've sort of established, this might well be the actual camera itself. Great.
Yeah.
I'm glad I don't have to make that worse. This is you were nimbly leaping, weren't you? That sounds like vitality. I'm sure is your strong suit.
Which is what I'm worst at, yes. Of course. Let me just have a quick look at my extra bits and pieces in case I can help myself here. No, I don't think so. Let's just roll it. Rolled an 11, so I get -1 on that. I get a 10 in total.
Very nice.
Fantastic. So yeah, you begin examining the camera to it. He says, "Oh no, be careful!" And there's sort of a really awkward, like two people wrestling with a really delicate and expensive piece of equipment in a small kitchen with two other people there around it and still trying to be polite and do it. He says, "Oh, you need to be careful. The mechanism isn't quite what you'd like. It's an old model, you see. We'll have a talk on it tonight as you do it." What's your intent with trying to look through it? Are you trying to piece through and see if there's something, a clue or something there?
Yeah, exactly. I guess from Algernon's perspective, he's expecting it to be like arcane sigils or something like that, but then maybe it'll just be a conventional clue, like some images on old film that's in there, or I don't know, some reflections or stains or something, or a particular chemical smell or something like that. But in his head, there'll be like a little demon inside, or there'll be some scratched writing on the roof of it or something.
Okay, so I think this moment is it's going to be something different because I've just thought of something else. This moment is broken by Algernon, like sort of tips forward and loses his balance, and sort of Periwinkle has to come and rescue him, and you're both left with the thing in front of you, and you look down to what's broken. It's a little clatter of him dropping things as he's piecing stuff together, and 3 small quartz rods have dropped out of what you wouldn't think this outfit had any pockets, but it does, to store these 3 quartz rods. So you have found indeed a clue. So 3 quartz rods.
Yo, Mr. Cyrus, man, sir, you dropped a piece of quartz as I put the other 2 in my pocket.
He says, "Oh yes, thank you. I don't want to." Yes, he takes one of them. Then he's looking around for the others. Says, "Yes," but realizes he can't do it. He says, "Well, it's been lovely to meet you, gentlemen. If you come tonight at 8 o'clock sharp, we don't serve a full sitting meal, but there'll be canapes and coffee. Coffee, won't there, Periwinkle? You must go out and buy some, the best we can get for our guest." And they're shouting from that. I think we're sort of running down the end of the day phase. I just want to go back to Mrs. Williams and see if there's any other plans that you want to do at this stage.
No, Mrs. Williams is going to journey to Kensington to join her employer because it's getting to the time of day when he needs his tea and his small sandwiches. Otherwise, he'll become quite unbearable.
Even more unbearable without his sandwiches. Excellent. Yeah, you make your way to Kensington to do that. And I think I'm going to say, probably, are you going to leave the house there? That's probably the end of our investigations.
Yeah, I put up my pocket watch and got 8 o'clock tonight. I have barely chance to get ready.
Excellent. And with that, we can sort of cut back to the dusk scene as we enter the dusk phase of this. So we are back in Hargrave House. One thing that needs to happen as we see you travelling back is, Craig, you have a flashback, and we normally would want to resolve that before we go to the next scene. So do you want to describe your past in privilege that we talked about before?
Yeah, I think that we cut to a plantation in Georgia. Large home. And we're seeing me about the same age as the boy that we just spent time with. And I'm sitting with a tutor and learning my letters. And she is very, very insistent on the accuracy. And one after another, she has me draw out a series of letters, throws them away, and says, that's garbage. That's garbage. That's not how we do it, son. That's not how we do it. And just over and over again, just embedding in me just a sense of perfection that you can see is grinding me down and putting me down. And I think the privilege is the fact that one, I'm being taught,
Yeah.
right? Like any type of not in a school, but with a private tutor, and will end up being one of the very few at this day and age that knows his letters and knows how to read.
Excellent. So we cut back to Hargrave House. We're going to do the dust phase, then we'll see what we're doing, and then we'll probably take a quick break and get back to it. So we're going to assemble. In the dusk phase, we learn a bit more about Hargrave House, and we're going to meet in the trophy room. So this is a chance for you to colour in some of the details around it. So in the trophy room, we see that there were hunters living in Hargrave House before you for generations, and trophies from their encounters with the supernatural can be found here. And my paint the scene question to you is to describe what those trophies look like.
I have one, if folks mind. It's not in a place of sort of pride, but close to it. To one side of the vast fireplace is a now old and a little bit threadbare werewolf pelt.
Nice. That Mr. Larrabee stays well away from for some reason. Seems quite uncomfortable near there, funnily enough. Cool.
I think we also see maybe on a mantle somewhere one of those shadow boxes, glass shadow boxes. And from far away, it looks like someone has very meticulously pinned a butterfly there. But as you get closer, you realize that it's not a butterfly because there is a preserved small fairy body that is attached to those wings.
Cool.
Lovely.
Yeah, there's a heavy glass bell-shaped case, that's sat over what looks like perhaps a small miniature Bible, a little red ribbon out of it, and with some effort, Algernon kind of like picks it up, and the Bible starts to fly out, and he slams the glass down again and goes, "Not this time, Reverend," and just taps the glass on the top.
Lovely. So, of course, in this phase, you could also try and answer a question if you feel that you've got enough clues to piece it together and do that. And there's also, before we forget, there's a specific move that the American has to make every time we get in the dusk phase, which will reveal a bit about maybe why he's ended up in London and not out in the West. But dusk phase, it's time that we went and got some little sandwiches, unless we become unbearable as well. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll edit it down for you guys watching at home, so it'll just be a few seconds. But when we come back, we'll decide what we're going to do in the night phase, or if we're able to do anything in Craig's case. Okay, see you in a little bit. Welcome back. It is dusk in Hargrave House, and our hunters are about to decide what they're going to do during the night phase. But first, the camera's going to go to Mr. Larrabee, and who, as happens every night, is looking a little peaky and a little distracted. Craig, I believe there's a move that you have to roll now as the American.
Yeah, as the American, I have the quickening. Real quick, I live with a curse that causes me to become savage, maybe even feral, to the point where my body physically changes. At the start of the dusk phase, I need to roll with composure or sensitivity, and it's my choice. I'm going to go sensitivity because I've got a 0 in both. So I will roll. Excellent. I rolled a 3. So on a miss, I am going to lose control, and I have a choice. I can either retire this character and tell the keeper to put the cursed threat in play, or I can reveal my curse to another hunter and ask for their help controlling me this night. If they agree, neither of you can take any action that would trigger a move during the upcoming night phase, though you would narrate a scene showing how the cursed character is being controlled throughout the night. During the dawn phase, we can each mark 1 XP. This option can only be chosen once. I think we get back. Our sorcerer immediately has to start his routine to start getting ready, picking out outfits and whatnot. And if it's okay, I would like to have a moment with Miss Williams.
Yeah. Let's play that scene then.
Yeah.
How'd your day go there, Miss Williams? Everything go all right?
Enjoyed the sights of London, Mr. Levy. You?
Good. I need to ask a bit of a favor. And it's going to seem odd.
You don't look well, young man.
I'm not feeling well, ma'am. I am not feeling well.
Cup of tea.
And no tea, ma'am. And we kind of hurry this on. So if you don't mind walking with me, I can kind of explain things as we go.
Well, very well then. The kitchen's this way.
So I think I take you to a part of the Hargrave house that somehow you've missed. We go from we take a right and a left through a couple hallways, and I'm imagining that at some moment you maybe pause because you're turned around. No, ma'am, it's right here. And I open up a door, and it's a stair down to a cellar. So if you just come down here,
this before.
No, you probably haven't, Miss Williams, but I need you to. I'm sorry, ma'am. You got to put a little extra bit in your step now because we're getting close. So
should I be worried?
No, not if you're going to take some more time to get down these steps. Yes, you should get real worried. But I need you to come down. I need you to come down right now.
Oh, very well. Is this like the time young Mr. Flintwhistle found that dead mouse?
Sure. Just keep walking with me, please. And we get down and it's almost like a dungeon. The walls are dirt. The floor is dirt. It looks strikingly unfinished. Mm-hmm. And there is an X, metal X with shackles, at the point, each point on the X. And you see me just I'm starting to twitch a little bit, and I just lay my back up against that X, and I put my hands up into the shackles, and I put my ankles into the shackles. I go, now, Miss Williams, I need you to close these up. Make sure they're locked real tight.
This is really quite unseemly, Mr. Laramie. I'm acquainted with some young ladies who may be able to.
Ma'am, I do not have time to talk, and you start to see my hand start to gnarl, and you start to see my fingers stretch. Man, we ain't got time. Got time.
Well, we have a choice then, don't we? Shackle you or get another pelt for the trophy room, and I shall move to shackle him quickly.
Man, I need a lot more lock, and a lot less yammering. Come on now.
All things in their right time, Mr. Laramie, as I'm shackling him, just slightly too slowly for his comfort, but quick enough.
Yeah. Excellent. There's definitely a moment where it seems that Mrs. Williams is surprisingly adept at using these shackles. There's maybe a moment where Mrs. Williams maybe does know this part of it. She has been down here before for a previous occupant and shackled things down here. Excellent. Let's leave that scene then, because the next thing is we work out what people are going to plan to do in the night phase initially, and that's sort of decided for the two of you. You're going to be in the cellar trying to make sure that you don't escape.
I'm just going to sit opposite him on a chair, knitting, and chattering away to him the whole time, no matter what happens, seemingly unfazed.
Lovely. Gaz, what's Alden on? What's Mr. Flintwhistle planning to do tonight?
Going to go to this event, clearly. Despite the cat getting underfoot and scratching at the floorboards and hissing down below for some reason that he can't fathom.
He's very distracted today.
He can't find his burgundy shirt for love and money, and can't find his house mistress to go and get it for him. He's going to go in a terrible state. Yeah. So, but he's going to go anyway. He's determined.
Yeah. What's your plan there? Are you trying to just find out about? Is it just information gathering and so on? What's just to get some of what you're hoping to do, so I can frame it a bit better?
So there's multiple things he wants to do, but he's going to try and work out what happens, who's basically suspects there's like a chief sorcerer or someone who knows what's going on, and probably loads of flunkies. Much like he's in Hargreave House, he's the person in charge, and then he has all of these minions as he sees it. So he assumes that this other house will have exactly the same. So he wants to try and like identify who it is that's got the real power and who's actually just hanging around.
Excellent. And so, fed up of waiting for your fellow invitees, Mr. Flintwhistle, we see climb into a carriage and indeed set off. During the night phase, we have something called the Unseen, which is a scene in another part of London that we are also watching as we see this night phase unfold. And that is narrated by the players. We're going to look at the British Museum. So I'm going to just introduce it. And then, Gaz, you're going to do the first unseen bit, the British Museum. Okay. In the heart of Bloomsbury, the British Museum has recently been expanded and renovated, housing relics of civilizations plundered by British adventurers, explorers, and colonial officers. Kamal Mansour once led excavations in Luxor, but has come to work at the museum as a caretaker, and we follow him on his nightly rounds.
Wild sighs as he sees the soot and grime of industry settling on the Parthenon marbles. What scene does he see of the classical Athens that demonstrate its role of dominant centre of civilization and martial power? Well, allow me to elucidate. He sees a broken spear, and as we whip back through time, the air whistling through our ears, we see an Athenian general stood above a Spartan, and as a symbol of defeating the Spartan army, he cracks the spear over his knee, splintering it, and keeps the bladed half, and says, "While we hold this, Athens will forever hold it above your head."
Beautiful, beautiful. And as we see the coach rattling over the cobblestones, let's go first to Mr. Larrabee and Mrs. Williams. What scene do we see now as the transformation is taking hold?
I think the transformation that you see, Miss Williams, it unfolds maybe in a matter of 60 to 90 seconds. It's very, very violent. It is, I structurally change. You can see my bones stretch, my skin brought taut. The lankiness of me suddenly gets filled in, and my clothes are shed as they're torn off. I would have already taken my jacket off. That's the one piece of clothing that I will not allow to be torn in this way. And I am an American werewolf in London. I've got a full snout, ears, and long fingers and claws, and I am growling and snapping at you. Luckily, I think your chair is just beyond my capabilities. And I think the only other thing that you might notice is some dried meats that I've hung in the back of the dungeon to be available to you to sate me as needed. But it's very loud, it's very aggressive, but I have designed, or I've procured this axe for a very specific reason, because it will hold me. And there is a clear line in the dirt on the floor that I've drawn that lets you know exactly where you need to be sitting from there and beyond.
So as this terrifying thing happens, what do we see of Mrs. Williams? How are you reacting to this?
Mrs. Williams is sat chattering away, holding a one-sided conversation using the snarls as punctuation, seemingly utterly unconcerned on the surface. However, her nervousness is made obvious to those that know her, as she is constantly fiddling with that cameo necklace of hers and inching her chair further and further away as the night goes on. By the end of the night, Mrs. Williams is almost over the other side of the room, has stopped chattering and knitting, and is just staring in a mix of fear and calculation at the werewolf as he rages.
Well, we're gonna keep coming back to you as things happen in that cellar. So yeah, that's the best outcome that can happen so far. Let's come back to that. Excellent. So yeah, we see that slightly nervous now as it does. Let's cut back. So Kensington Townhouse. We're not going to do the knocking at the door and going in, but I think we do see one of the rooms on the first floor now. This room is where they've decided to hold the host of it, and it is a whole room made up to look like a Western saloon. And in addition to this, they've hung up American flags around the place and have done some like terrible opportunity to, try to serve what they imagine American people would eat. And everyone is clustered around with little teacups, just wincing slightly as they sip the coffee that Cyrus has insisted everyone drinks. And we see Mr. Flintwhistle's arrival, and there's a sharp intake of breath as everyone turns towards you, and then a little sigh of disappointment. And Cyrus comes up and says, "Where is he? Where is he? The one with the moustache? Is he coming later?"
I'll slightly alter my own moustache.
No, the other one.
I'm terribly sorry. There's been some kind of mistake. I thought this was a gentleman's evening as I look around doubtfully at the decor. No, my staff aren't coming. I thought, sorry, I thought this was for gentlemen.
Oh, but we simply must photograph him. Is he coming later? Could you send a man to bring him?
Well,
we need to photograph him.
He's the man I would send to get someone if I wanted someone getting.
Well, we could send...
But he's not here, you see.
We could send Periwinkle, and we cut to Periwinkle running off from there. He says, but the whole evening, we've been drinking this foul coffee all night for him.
I'm aghast for you. But Flintwhistle's feeling like much better that he's only got his second best burgundy shirt on now, because he was feeling a bit self-conscious. But seeing the state of things, he's looking a lot happier. Says, well, perhaps you might take my photograph. I am somewhat dashing, some might say. Wouldn't you agree? He looks around for approval from the assembled people.
Well, to see if we get that approval, let's make a move. I think this is the night move because we are in night. So you're sort of trying to ingratiate yourself with these people and smooth it over the disappointment of the American-themed party not being visited by an American. Although they'd be more disappointed if the American had come in the state that he's in now, actually. That would be more of a disappointment. Never mind the coffee. So what are you afraid, Gaz, will happen if you fail to win them over or lose your nerve?
My biggest fear is the party will be cancelled. I'll not be able to work out who's in charge or what secrets go on here. It'll fade away and everybody will just dissipate.
Yes, I think I've got to make that worse. I think that they will, as well as cancelling it, they will be sure that this is a trap and people poking their nose in. And so while the party will be cancelled, you won't be leaving the townhouse here. They'll keep you so you can't go back and report back to it. So presence, I think this is.
Sure. I guess an 8.
Excellent. So you do it on hold steady, but there is a complication or cost. The keeper describes what it looks like. They say, oh, well, we'll say he's coming later. I guess we could say he's coming later, and we secured some bourbon. If we pass that round, we can keep people happy for a while, and they'll be completely sozzled by the end of the evening anyway. There's no reason to cancel the party, is there? And yes, I think it will be a fantastic opportunity for us to take your photograph. We should do that right away. Periwinkle? And you are ushered into another room to have your photograph taken by the Whateley camera immediately from that. Okay, so we cut back now to the British Museum. Shane, you want to do the next bit of the unseen?
Polishing the marble floor in a room of Roman relics, Kamal takes a moment to look around. What items tell the story of the supposed decadence of Rome? And this is an exhibit that's been set up recently to showcase the allegorical feast of Trimalchio. It was written by a Roman author of the time as a criticism of the decadence of the late Roman Empire. Live birds sewn up in pigs, live birds inside fake eggs, dished to represent every sign of the zodiac. And scattered around amongst this are lots of bejeweled plates and old toga clips, of much of which would have cost more than your average Roman would have seen in a decade. And all the time, these people were consuming, perhaps in an allegory for the British Museum, while the normal people starved.
Lovely, lovely. So, Mr. Flintwhistle, you've been taken through to the next room along. This room is used for artistic photography and has been decorated to look like a scene from Greek myth. And as you enter, the statues around, they've hastily moved some mirrors into here as well, and you can see the camera set up as well. And you can feel as if the Greek pantheon is actually watching you as you come into this room. And other like members of the society, there's people milling around and stuff, are sort of peering in as Cyrus sits you down in an ornate chair and goes behind the camera and says, "Now, give me your very best pose." And there's and I think clicks. Go on. Do you wanna...
I was just like, should I not disrobe first?
There's a. It says, "Oh yes, of course. that would be ideal."
Very well.
But yeah, we see the bottom of the chair as your shirt gets thrown over it. It's all very tastefully done.
Yeah. So there's a jar with a preserved frog and a kitten, and various other things are coming out.
Cat comes out. Yeah. And then there's the flash as the photograph is taken there.
So I don't know if I can do a thing in the night mood. You can
go for it. Yeah.
I want to try and use my dark powers to invert the lens, so he ends up taking a photograph of himself in the spiritual sense, even if the physical photograph is of me.
That sounds fantastic. That sounds a little bit like Rites of Salt and Smoke to me. Yeah. Just to be clear that what you're doing to do this is contacting dark entities and getting them to do it.
Yes. Yeah. Because nothing can go wrong from summoning demons to help.
I've got no idea. No. So choose what kind of offerings the entities will require for you to do it.
It's a blood sacrifice, of course, which is now I am divested of my robes. You can see the marks previously where I've given up these offerings before now, and I will do the typical thing they do in films, which is always horrifying to me. You would never do in real life, but draw a blade across my palm. Yeah. So you don't see the knife in, but you see the blood dripping out from between my fingers.
The least convenient place to draw blood from.
Which would never heal.
Yeah. Okay, so we see that drop on the floor just as the flash goes. And we have the flash go. Do you want to make the roll?
Sure.
I think it's with sensitivity, this, isn't it, when you do it?
I would suspect so. I've rolled 11, 13.
Ooh.
Wow, the magic works without further cost. Flash in the room. And as your eyes adjust back to it, Cyrus is gone. And you are just
marvelous trick
in this room, naked.
Well, I'm starting to feel self-conscious now. So.
Periwinkle you just see Periwinkle looking over and saying, "Sir, are you okay?" And I think
yes, but are you going to take my photograph or what? I'll say as if I don't realise anything's happened.
Of course. And he gingerly starts moving towards the camera. Let's go back to the cellar now. We just see a close-up of the screws on one of the manacles that your claw is on, and we hear a creak as it just loosens.
Yeah, I'm imagining like we see a bolt roll across the line and just tap into Miss Williams' shoe.
Yeah. Miss Williams, you notice this bolt has come out of this manacle.
And Mrs. Williams remembers something from before and places carefully down her knitting, momentarily goes upstairs and returns with a shotgun and then sits down, and instead of holding her knitting, just sits cradling this antique shotgun, loaded.
Excellent, Craig. Does that how in your bestial form? How does that? You understand that? Does that?
I don't.
You?
No, not whatsoever. But I do understand the loosening, right? I understand I'm getting a little bit more movement out of my left hand, so I am vigorously working that back and forth. And if it's okay, I think maybe Miss Williams, you realize that this may have been a more elaborate setup at some point. You see several broken pieces of wood at my feet on the dirt. So some or other sort of safety structure must have been here at some point, but now it is just a bunch of long wooden dowels that are just broken at my feet.
Yeah, happy with that.
Lovely, lovely. Craig, do you want to take the next unseen questions? We go back to the British Museum now.
Yeah, in the Egyptian hall, Kamal is surrounded by the works of his ancient ancestors, some of them pulled from the sands by his own hands. What here demonstrates inevitable, looming death? As Kamal is tending to this part of the museum, we come to a wall, and it is obviously a stone wall that's been extricated from Egypt and brought here as much intact as possible. Each of the stones are laid with an engraving, and it is a series of scarab beetles, each one of them facing to the left. And as we see him maybe dust off the stone a bit, clean it up and tend to it as he starts to walk away, we see one of the engraved beetles move from one stone and skitter to the next stone. So the engraving itself moves.
Lovely, lovely. Back in Kensington, Mr. Flintwhistle, Periwinkle is very gingerly moving around. Did Cyrus not take it?
Well, where did he go? He was there a minute, and he's just disappeared. Like, well, it's ruins. Look at these goosebumps. And I point at my arm. So you can't take a picture of me in this condition. I'm like a plugged chicken. Well, we'll have to go back to my place and do it there where there's a warm fire, and I'll start dressing and saying, right, pack that up. We're going back to Hargreave House.
He says, "Oh, you can't leave. You can't." And then there's a shout from outside. You hear it, Cyrus, where is he? And stepping in is a woman of middle age, wearing a black caftan, hair braided to look like a crown, and steps in completely unconcerned about your nudity, and says, "Oh, you're not the American. You're the other one. Yes, Cyrus told me about that. Where is he? That's the fellow disappears just when I need him. Anyway, are you going to model for us on what?"
Well, I've done all that. Here, help me with these laces. I can never do them around the back.
Indeed. And so as she goes behind you, you are left facing one of the mirrors in this room. And I think what you see beyond, you just see Cyrus like floating and screaming at the mirror out of you from there, and like banging on it and doing it. What do you do?
I'll kind of smile to myself at this and start to ponder how I might pull people back. Not him, of course. He deserves to stay there, but there might be someone worthy that we need to bring back the other way. So, I mean, did Cyrus work for you, my dear? Did you teach him these things? He didn't seem very competent. Perhaps you're the font of knowledge in this building.
Works for me. He is he's my husband. So I guess you could say that is. I founded the society. Haven't seen him around, have you?
I'm sure he's floating around the place somewhere.
And I think let's establish something here, just because it is the night face. And I think Periwinkle is like, "What?" He screams. He says, "He's in the mirror. He's in the mirror. It's him. Look in the mirror." And Portia is just turning. What is that boy wittering about now?
Look, it's just, has he never seen a mirror before? Yes, it's me. It's my face in the mirror, Periwinkle. Honestly.
No.
I know it's my good sides to switch round, and now you're all confused. But honestly, it's this one, the eye patch. This one's the good one.
It's what? Is this the camera? And she like ignores you and steps towards it to try and investigate further. I think this is probably, it sounds like you're trying to get some information out of her and maybe stop her doing that. Does that sound fair enough? I think this probably is a move to try and charm her.
Where did this thing come from anyway? And blah, 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 blah. Yes. Allow me to help as I'd like half knock it over and that kind of thing.
Excellent. So I guess this is an information move. I'm going to roll it a bit as a night move because we're in night and it's, there's loads of people around and you're half naked and there's someone in the fragrant void trapped there. So if you fail to distract her, what are you frightened will happen if you fail or lose your nerve?
That she'll perform the operation that her husband was supposed to be doing, and I'll end up on the wrong side of the mirror.
I think it's going to be worse in that the entity itself will reach out and take its revenge on you because it was you that it wanted originally. So do you want to roll probably composure, I think?
Composure. Okay. That's a nothing. So it seems weirdly hard. I'd rather have a -1 in some ways. But I've got 0 on composure. So let's see. Ooh, I've got a 6.
That's a miss.
It is a miss, isn't it?
Okay. As you step forward from here, and you're trying to sort of look at the camera, you're messing with the camera, and we see a flash in the room, and when it clears, you're not there.
So could I put on a mask at this point?
You certainly could, yes. Well, let's cut back.
Cut back
after
first.
We've done that. Yeah, let's cut back to it. So I think we see the floor of the cellar, and we see some insects sort of rushing away from where they've been disturbed as this manacle sort of works loose from it. And then Mr. Larrabee's foot just splat and crush and grind them into the ground as you can now lunge forward. And if you wanted to, you realise, even in your bestial sense, you could take Mrs. Williams now. She is within reach. Mrs. Williams, how do you calm this beast at this point? I don't know if you realise this or not, but...
Okay, so I think I'm just quickly checking something on the character sheet. Okay.
Remember, we don't make moves in this. You're not able to make moves, so just use whatever is inspiration. It's not.
Okay. Yeah. So realizing that the shotgun will do nothing, Mrs. Williams, calmly on the outside, but with shaking hand, leans it against the wall, takes a deep breath, turns round, and takes a step closer. And like when you approach a skittish horse, she slowly tries to place a hand on his snout. And you see sort of he growls and snaps, and she has to pull it back sometimes, but she will just sort of slowly just patiently, even though her other hand is trembling in fear, this one is calm, and just eventually get to the point where she can rest it on his snout and just not stroke him like a dog, but just hold it there, creating that moment of connection to try and move her from prey to packmate.
And I think what happens here, Miss Williams, is that I see you making me an offering for a feeding. Maybe perhaps you're willing to sacrifice your hand for this endeavor, and I'm very much entranced by that. But once you touch my snout, you get a full inhale comes, and I smell you, and somehow deep down, Hank wrestles a little bit of control, recognizes it is you, even though the beast doesn't see you. but the beast smells you, and that sates it. So I pull back, and each time you can see me trying to fight to not consume and attack you. Each time it's a full inhale from your hand to continue to soothe me and to sate me.
Cool.
Lovely, lovely. Let's just go back and do that mask and see what happens. So do you want to narrate the mask now, Gaz, or leave it later?
Yes, a flashback to a time when I was in the womb. Even then, dark entities were interested in me. Perhaps it's, I think, although we can't see this from where I am in this kind of reddish kind of chamber that looks hellish almost, probably, and I'm not even fully formed, but we're looking out through my little myopic eyes. You can hear the screaming of my mother, and something's tried to take her or presented itself, and she's dying of fright as her heart stopped. That familiar drum that's been there for all my existence has stopped. But through the sheer power of my will and drive to see her survive so that I can, I force my own little heart to beat that extra that restarts her own heart.
Nice.
Gives her the power to carry on and carry me to term.
Lovely.
And I'm going to use that same willpower to resist the reach of the entity.
Yeah. So we see you vanish, and there's a sensation of floating, just as if you were in that flashback from there. And we feel we get to hear your heartbeat slow a little, and then there is a crash, as in another room, a mirror breaks, and out of it, a half-naked Mr. Whistle, you fall bodily out of this full-length mirror. It's the room, obviously, it's the Wild West saloon with everyone in, that they're
like
all
a
there.
cowboy just been thrown through a tavern window.
It is exactly
saloon
like that.
window. Yeah.
As you clatter down onto it, reaching out for something to grab it, and your hand happens upon an object that's been clearly stowed away for this party, and you like knock it to the ground and look at it, and you realise that this is a clue. It is an orrery. It's hard to say that. Showing the 7 celestial realms.
Nice.
Right. And there's again a sort of sharp intake of breath, and then as you stagger to your feet, and the smell of sort of cigarette smoke and bourbon and sweat assails you, as you see there are sort of 20 or 30 people all doing that. There's a moment of sort of shock as you fall over, but then the way the night's going, there's already been a few people fall over and knock into things. So it's not too that, and so they sort of go back, and maybe even a hand comes to help you up and says, "My good man, get back to your feet. It's strong stuff, this, isn't it? Much better than that bloody coffee."
As I've said, I got ta-da in my old stage magician presence, like this was a magic trick I've just performed.
Excellent, excellent. And as you do, they turn, and there's a little round of applause. And then
too kind.
The sort of rumbling in the house starts. Let's have the final unseen. It's back to you, Gaz, isn't it? Do you want to do the final unseen? After we've done the moves after this, it's gonna be the end of the night phase. So you ready for that?
In the British Museum, Kamal pauses in the doorway as he sees 2 young scholars meeting beneath the statue of Ganymede, one of them nervously clutching a pamphlet of Uranian poetry. And he watches, how do they awkwardly, wordlessly negotiate their assignation? And in this place, in this time, in this strange world, they don't have to communicate with words. They do it through ululations of their heartbeats, causing them to beat louder or softer and at different rhythms. And with unspoken communication in such fashion, they beat their hearts at one another until the 2 hearts become one.
Beautiful, beautiful. Just while we'll go to the cellar, while we do that, I should have said before, I forgot to say, you get a condition as well, which is drawn to the void. You have been in the fragrant void, even if for a moment. Back in the cellar, we have this moment of sort of charm, and I think we hear the heartbeats of the two of you echoing around the room there. Now that this connection has been made, what's the rest of the evening look like, Craig?
A push and a pull. And it's a push and a pull coming from Miss Williams, but also coming from Hank somewhere inside the beast. But I think that more from Miss Williams than from Hank, we see success. And as the moment before Miss Williams sees me start to reform, we see the insects return to the dirt, right? So we start to see the beetles and stuff coming back out, and you can tell that they're no longer afraid. They've no longer skittered away, and what you end up seeing, Miss Williams, is again the cracking. It's that bone cracking that makes it worse. My fingers come back normal. You can see my claws turn back into fingernails. You see the snout come back as my skull starts to reform, and I think it ends with, of course, I've got a leg and an arm free. My other leg and my right hand is still successfully bolted to this metal X. I quickly cover myself with my left hand and go, ma'am, if you don't mind grabbing my pants over there, I'd much appreciate it.
Of course, but don't worry, it's nothing I haven't seen when Mr. Williams was alive. There you go. I'll make you some tea and something to eat. I think.
Oh, a coffee, ma'am, if you don't mind.
Coffee? I thought we were becoming friends. Very well. Just for you this once, but don't tell Mr. Flintwhistle. He'll be mortified.
Excellent. Back in the townhouse. Small round of applause. And then there's sort of a pitching. And suddenly the people in this room, yourself included, there's just a little weightlessness as you begin to float up in the air. And you get a sense, as someone who is trained in such things, that this entity is reaching through the void, as someone that it was wanting to take has escaped. And you can feel the pull towards the mirrors that are still around this room. And you can see them cracking as you begin to fly towards one of them, just gently. What do you do?
Well, no one ever said that Algernon Flintwhistle didn't think of himself first, but that's exactly what he thinks. So having warmly shake the hand of someone who kindly helped me to my feet, we look around. I use my excellent dance training to do a heel lead and then a backward heel turn, and move. So as we move towards the mirror, his body's in front of mine and will be taken first. Very, very, very good, my friend. Oh, thank you so much for helping. Yes, it's been a delightful party.
My
just
name
keep him
is Pierre.
engaged as we
Lovely to meet you. This is definitely a night move as you attempt to sacrifice a party home instead of yourself. What are you afraid will happen if you fail or lose your nerve?
Probably that in his desire not to be sucked into the void, like he just won't let go of my hand and he'll pull me with him. Yeah. So the both of us will end up in there.
You will both end up in the void, indeed. And I think it will be worse. Don't know. I don't know if I can make that any worse. You'll be in the void, and the entity will immediately contact you. It'll be you that it wants, because you already treat with lots of these entities. So it sounded like I don't know. I think I might let you roll with sensitivity. It's sort of vitality to do the dance, but it's sensitivity because you are really trying to avoid being sucked in there. The bad news is, and I know this is a bit mean, in that I've just given you the condition, but drawn to the void does appear to be relevant here in resisting being drawn into the void. So I'm going to make you roll a disadvantage. Now, you can obviously use something from your personal quarters to get that back up to a straight roll, if you can narrate it in.
Yes. I think it's a reach in the rest of the time. Well, the thing I camera it in, of course, is my cat, Puma.
Yeah.
So as my eyes start to like mist over and I'll lose the sense of this world, handily Puma will come and scratch the back of my ankles and bring me sharply back into this world again.
Yeah, that works.
So it's
that
just
works.
a straight roll ultimately.
Yeah. Sensitivity.
Okay, roll the 9 and get +2 for sensitivity, so 11 overall.
Nice.
Okay, so yeah, it happens as you describe, as you fly slowly towards this mirror you said, and just as we hear, "Nice to meet you. My name's Pierre," but he vanishes. And everyone in the room, you're just left holding maybe his glove,
a signet ring or something.
Yeah. And the party goers stop floating, and everyone sort of just looks around, and then there's like laughter and people are giggling as if whatever's happened here. And that is the end of the night phase. So our hunters have so you will be going back now to Hargrave House. We cut back to the next morning. In fact, we'll see it, but that will be another day for another recording. So do tune in to our next episode where we're going to have 2 episodes of this as we play through this one threat. See if our hunters can resolve the Whateley camera without. We've just about managed to have none of them really get captured in the fragrant void. Let's see if that still happens next week when we record this. Thank you to all of our cast here. Thank you, viewers, for watching. Do remember to like and subscribe and share this around. The best thing you can do for creators like us is share and pass the word if you enjoy it. So do tell people about it, and make sure, if the option is still available to you, that you go and back the Between and get the amazing stuff that they've got on Backer Kit that they're looking for you. And we will see you very shortly, in a few weeks.